This is Frankie Abbruzzino with the Scoop News. I want to talk a little bit about that deal a couple weeks ago or a week ago that Trump made. And I came on and I said, I have concerns with this. And it's the deal with Saudi Arabia and the hopes that they will go out and help fight extremism, which is just a joke in itself. Saudi Arabia has a policy, a foreign policy, a domestic policy that is driven by theology, which is dangerous no matter if it's Muslim, Christian, Jewish, any of those. And I was just talking to someone the other day, and I said, one of the main problems with a lot of these religions is the extremists. And it's not just an issue that's solely on the plate of the Islamic world that you see in Christians and Jewish lands. But going out there and sitting down, shaking the king's hand and saying, hey, look, we believe that you're going to go out there and combat terrorists. You're going to go out and get rid of extremism. You're going to drive them out. And this article was interesting because it said that's like going out to the Ku Klux Klan and saying, we trust you. We trust that you're going to go out there and combat racism and anti-Semitism. And that's a joke. I mean, come on, it's not going to happen. And for years, Saudi Arabia has been out there and they promoted the ISIS, these extremist type groups that we're trying to fight, that we're trying to combat. And one thing we cannot remember, something that's close to home and here in Venice, is the fact that 15 of these 9/11 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. The fact that there's a lot of concern out there that the government, those high up in the government, were involved in that whole action. So Trump went out. He had the speech. They did the usual stuff where somebody that doesn't understand that whole Middle Eastern train of thought wrote it. And they said basically that radical Muslims, they can be persuaded. They can be persuaded to abandon all their dreams and aspirations for a worldwide caliphate. This isn't going to happen. And it won't happen if you look at Wahhabism. Wahhabism is the main thing being pushed out of Saudi Arabia. And central to their theological principle is that caliphate. And Saudi Arabia has for years promoted this through school, financing the textbooks, the mosques, the media. Everything's controlled by the House of Saud. And they've been promoting Wahhabism. That's where Osama bin Laden came out of with his ideology. And so it's a little duplicitous, I can't even say the word, to think that Saudi Arabia is going to go out there and fight against ISIS in one hand while they're out there supporting it so much within their own state. And if you look at just Syria, Iraq, the proxy war that's being fought by Syria and Iran. Syria is... Saudi Arabia and Iran. Saudi Arabia is in there financing and backing ISIS to overthrow the house, not the House of Assad, the Bashad from Syria. I can't speak today. And Iran's in there supporting the Bashad government in this little proxy war. You think Saudi Arabia is not going to support those extremist groups who Obama called moderates? Al-Nusra, they're not moderates. Trust me, folks. I've been studying this for a long time. So they go out there. An action that this article will also refer to, which caught me totally by surprise, was a couple weeks ago at the UN. There was a move to have this ISIS branch that's within the Saudi Arabia sanctioned, impose sanctions, put them on the terrorist list. But it was killed. And it was killed because Saudi Arabia objected to any public acknowledgement of this existence within the House of Saud, within their kingdom. I mean, this has got to stop. Arab and Muslim leaders have long said that one thing the West and that the West is the opposite of their own people. And this should not be a surprise. This should not be a surprise that Wahhabism is being pushed in there and will continue to be pushed by the House of Saud. Trump went out and he spoke about, hey, we're going to give Saudi Arabia all this money, $110 billion in arms deal, so that they can go out and drop some more cluster bombs on Yemen, another proxy war they're fighting with Iran there. A ton of civilians are being killed. Canada, England, and United States are primary dealers in the arms there. The war machine loves this stuff, $110 billion in arm deals. And that's not it. They're getting another $350 billion over 10 years. And the president says, it's going to create a ton of jobs. Yeah, nothing like getting jobs over the death and struggles and horrors of so many other individuals out there. Saudi Arabia will not stop this ideology, though. Trump is mistaken if he thinks doing this will get Saudi Arabia to stop promoting an ideology that encourages terrorism. It will not happen. It will not happen because they still want that worldwide caliphate. They still want to eliminate Israel off the face of the earth. And they do this through the vilification of the Jews. And there's a statement in there that said the policy forged in theology is not about to be changed by the urging of the Western infidels, be it us, Trump and them. You had the Saudi foreign minister. He came out and he said, if we can change the conversation, basically saying that the Islamic State and the United States are partners, they're not enemies. We can change that conversation. Then guess what? We could change everything that's happening right now. We can drown out those voices of extremism, and we can drain that swamp of extremism. Do you guys believe that? That's the approach that the Saudi Arabian foreign minister is going with. This is the same guy that went out and said that Iran, from their perspective, they judge Iran by its actions, not by the words. Well, shouldn't we say the same should be held about Saudi Arabia? I mean, isn't that a suitable standard by which to judge these Saudi leaders, the kings, the House of Saud? And without any change in their theological worldview, I just can't buy this. Until I see that Wahhabism is not mainstream there in Saudi Arabia, until I see that they're not out there financing ISIS in their proxy wars or extremist groups like al-Nusra when you're talking about Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. I just don't buy it. And I think it was a bad deal. I voted for Trump, but this is one of the things that I think was just a bad deal to move forward with. All right, that's it. This has been Frank Abbruzzino with another Rogue Rant. I cannot speak today on the Uncensored Report. Everybody have a great day.